In this video, I'm going to show you how to create a loop to access individual array elements. This function has an array called sizes, which will be used to set the font size of an HTML element. As the loop iterates through the array, it'll use a conditional statement to compare the array value with the current font size. If they match, the font size will be increased to the next value from the array, and the loop will stop running. If the loop has already reached the last item in the array, the first array value will be used instead. Before creating the loop, I need to add a couple more variables to the list at the beginning of the function. So I'm going to add a comma after the array, and then create a variable called len, which will be set to sizes length. You see that Dreamweaver has brought up a set of code hints there. Length gives you the number of elements that are in an array. And one more variable, which will be called I. I will be used to count the number of times the loop has run. There's nothing magical about the variable I, but it's most commonly used for counting in loops. So let's add an else clause after the conditional statement. Inside the else clause, I'm going to add a loop. And the loop will be what's called a for loop. JavaScript has several types of loop, but the for loop is used quite commonly. To create a for loop, you use the keyword for and then open parenthesis, and the first argument that goes between the parenthesis, or the first statement that goes between the parenthesis, initializes the counter. Because arrays begin at 0, you set I to 0. Then you need to create a condition for how long the loop will run. You want the loop to run for as many items as there are in the array. Now the length value, which we've stored in len, contains the full number. So there are 4 items in the array, so len will be 4. But because we count from 0, you need to run the array till 1 less than the actual value of length. So it's I is less than len. And the final statement for the for loop is an increment, and I++. Using ++ increments the value by 1 each time that the loop runs. So close the parenthesis, and then the loop itself goes inside a pair of curly braces. And it's a good idea always to put in the closing brace, because it's very easy to lose track of the number of braces that you've got. It's also a very good idea to indent your code. That helps see where the braces are. That helps you identify which blocks of code belong to each other. Now inside the for loop, I'm going to create a conditional statement. If I equals, that's 2 equals signs, because it's the equality operator that we're using. We're not assigning the value, we're comparing two values, so 2 equal signs. len minus 1. That's my condition. Why is it len minus 1? It's because the length of the array is the complete number. And what we want to do is we want to find out if we've got to the end of the array. The end of the array is sizes 3. So it's len minus 1. Pair of curly braces for that conditional statement. And if we're at the final item in the array, what we need to do is to use the first item in the array to set the font size. So it's list style font size equals the first element in the sizes array. So that's sizes square bracket 0 plus px for pixels. So if we've got to the end of the array, the first array item will be used to set the size. So we need to deal with the other sizes now. So another else clause, which is inside the loop, and I need to create a condition there, so it'll be else if font size, which is this stored value up here, the equality operator, so if it equals sizes I, and this is using the counter. So as it goes through the array, sizes I will be originally 0, then 1, then 2, then 3. So sizes I will be actually sizes 0 is 16, sizes 1 is 20, and so on. So it's making the comparison there. So if font size equals sizes I, then you need to put in the px because it's reading an inline style which will have px in it. So if the font size matches, what you want to do is to set list style font size. This time it's a single equal sign. It'll be sizes open square bracket I plus 1. In other words, not the current array element, but the next one, I plus 1, and then add the px to it. And once we've found a match, we don't need the loop to continue anymore. So to stop a loop running, then use break keyword. And that should be it. Now Dreamweaver is very kindly informing me that there's a syntax error on line 19, and talking and typing at the same time can be difficult. That should be a plus sign. And the Dreamweaver kindly now tells me I have no syntax errors. So let me just save that. Activate Live View. Click once and it increases. Well, that obviously doesn't work, but having a quick look at the code, I can see where I have made a mistake. It's the same one as before. The reason it's not showing a syntax error is because the syntax is correct, but it's actually quite meaningless what I'm doing. So I need to change that equal sign to a plus sign and save it again. And click on Live View, and we should now be looping through the array. And we've gone back to the first item, and it just continues going round and round forever and ever. So that shows you how to create a loop to access not only the current array element, but also how to access the next element by adding 1 to the counter variable. Remember, the for loop takes 3 statements. The first one initializes the counter. The second sets a condition for when the loop should stop, and the final one increments the counter each time that the loop runs.